Good morning. This is Heather Van Wild, Raindrop Works. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's going on yet. Um, the courtroom is open. We have a court clerk in the WebEx, but we don't have any video feed from the court. Um, there's obviously yeah, there's other media here. We've got KTU, Coin, and KPTV, as well as a handful of individuals. So, pretty clueless as to when we're getting our video.
Good morning. This is the court clerk. We are not on the record at the moment, but we are getting ready to get started. This is a reminder that all folks that are viewing via WebEx need to make sure that their cameras and microphones are turned off and remain off.
We are getting ready to start.
And a reminder that although you may not be present in the courtroom, this is an official court proceeding and therefore should be treated as such. If you have issues with folks unmuting or interrupting, we'll have to go ahead and expel you from the meeting. And then a reminder for all folks that are in the courtroom that all phones and other electronic devices need to be turned off entirely unless you have confirmed with the court as to your ability to use them for press reasons. Otherwise, we'll be getting started in just another minute or two with Judge Souede. Thank you all for your patience. All rise. The Circuit Court of the State of Oregon for Multnomah County is now in session. The Honorable Benjamin Souede presiding.
Good morning, everyone. You all are welcome to have a seat. We'll go on the record.
We are on the record.
Mr. Kalbaugh, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. We are here in the matter of State v. Joseph Gibson, 19 CR 53042, State v. Russell Schultz, 19 CR 53035, and State v. Mackenzie Lewis, 19 CR 53040. This is the first day of the second week of trial in this case. Representing the State of Oregon, Brad Kalbaugh, Kalbaugh. My bar number is 074335. Defendants are present, represented by counsel, and out of custody, and the parties are ready to proceed.
Thank you, counsel.
Good morning, Your Honor. Also for the state, Sean Hughey, Hughey, bar number 152776.
Thank you, Mr. Hughey. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Attorney Angus Lee on behalf of Mr. Gibson.
Morning, Your Honor. James Buchal on behalf of Defendant Gibson.
Mr. Lee, Mr. Buchal, good morning. Mr. Gibson, good morning, sir.
Brian Schmontes for Mr. Schultz, 053726.
Thank you, Mr. Schmontes. Mr. Schultz, good morning, sir.
And Kelly Doyle, bar number 840394 for Defendant Mackenzie Lewis.
Mr. Doyle, good morning. Mr. Lewis, good morning to you. I'll note for the record, we're outside the presence of the jury. I had one outstanding bit of business that I needed to take care of. There's a pending objection from Mr. Doyle to State's Exhibit 5 as cumulative. At this time, that objection is overruled. I understand there may be one or two evidentiary things we need to do before we call in the jury. I will tell you, I'm very eager to get the jury into the courtroom and working. What requires decision?
Your Honor, in the state's opening statement, we have a PowerPoint that we prepared. In that PowerPoint, we play clips from several of the exhibits. My understanding is that all defense counsel is prepared to stipulate to admission of exhibits 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Defense counsel for Mr. Gibson.
Forgive me. Those exhibits in their entirety or just the portion that the state intends to play in opening?
My understanding was that it was those exhibits in their entirety.
Okay,
I believe
I will
one or more
certainly
defense
ask.
attorneys may play portions as well.
Okay, keep going, and then we'll
And my understanding is Mr. Gibson's attorneys were objecting to state's exhibits 4A and 4B as they were of the position that the edits that Mr. Hughey made were insufficient to comply with the court's order from last week.
Okay, so the state has cut 4A and 4B, intending to comply with the court's orders from last week, and there's disagreement as to whether or not those edited versions comply with those earlier orders.
That is correct, Your
Okay.
Honor. And I let Mr. Lee see the clips that we were going to use from 4A and 4B, and my understanding is that objection still stands.
Okay. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, all parties are stipulating to admissibility pre-admission of 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. As it is to 4A and 4B, we believe that the two segments that they have created go far beyond what is required to comply with the court's ruling. Essentially, the first segment immediately starts with Mr. Lewis taking off his hat and not having gloves on. And that's really all you need in 4A. Then they run it on for about 3 minutes. Then they break. Then they come back to another later one that's about, I think, 2 minutes long. And he's got the helmet on. The transition is made clear by playing maybe the first 10 seconds of 4A and a lesser part of 4B. And it just kind of brings in a bunch of what appears to be chaos and a group of people, a lot of footage of people in that group that are not part of this case. And that was the substance of the court's ruling. And so we think it just hasn't been properly constrained to the court's ruling.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Let me ask Mr. Schmontes, Mr. Doyle, as an initial matter, do you agree, are you also stipulating to the pre-admission of State's Exhibits 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel.
Yeah.
Thank you, counsel. Understanding, Mr. Doyle, that I've overruled the objection to 5. All right, so State's Exhibits 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 are each received. As to 4A, is the state in a position to play?
I can play the video,
edited.
or Mr. Hughey did the edit, so if you have specific questions about that, he's here as well.
I need to see it before I know whether I have questions.
It's not burdensome. It's about 3.5 minutes total over both.
For both 4A and 4B. Okay, let's do 4A first then.
I see it on the screen. I'm pressing.
Let's talk about this while we're here, by the way, just a matter of logistics. Any objection if while videos are playing, I'm a little worried about a glare to the jury. We may at some point lower the lights. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, that works.
That's fine. And
for
that's not my screen.
For these purposes, I'm fine. I can see.
Like a shared screen. If you go to, or actually, I could do it. Want me to describe the HTML?
Yeah, you want to do it?
Sure.
Apologize, Judge. For some reason, it's only showing my PowerPoint that was up. I'm not sure
That's
why
okay.
that's happening.
If you go to
Pick it.
settings.
I can do it if you want.
I've got it ready to go. All right. Sorry. Yeah, so this is, I think, the same thing yours was doing.
And just to be clear, what you're about to play is 4A as its entire, sorry, we'll try that again. As its intended entirety, understanding you wanted to play more, but consistent with the court's ruling. This would be everything in 4A the state intends to play, not just the clip that it would intend to play.
Correct. That's what Mr. Hughey's got ready.
Okay.
So you want to go to multiple displays, duplicate. That's, I think, the same problem yours was doing.
I've got it queued up if you want me to give it a shot.
Well, this
There you
is
go.
playing directly from the USB drive that's going to be offered
Okay.
as the court record. So this is 4A.
There's no audio.
Not identical to what they gave us yet.
No, mine still wasn't on there. It's on slideshow mode. I just needed to load the PowerPoint. I did that already.
Okay, nice. That was 4A.
That was 4A in its entirety?
That's right.
Okay, 4A complies entirely with the court's earlier ruling. Mr. Gibson's objection, which I take to be both relevance under 401 and for undue prejudice under 403, is overruled. Yeah, it is plainly relevant for the reasons we talked about last week with respect to Mr. Lewis. Moreover, to the extent there's interstitial viewings of other people doing other things, I don't believe with the audio excised that any potential undue prejudice of seeing other people around in that sort of interstitial way as the camera comes away from and then returns to Mr. Lewis. I don't think any, I'm not seeing any substantial prejudice to the extent that there is prejudice. that prejudice is not substantially outweighed by the probative value of seeing Mr. Lewis getting kitted out. For that reason, Mr. Gibson's objection is overruled. 4A, when offered, may be received. It is consistent with the court's earlier ruling. Mr. Doyle, you are on your feet.
Just in addition, it doesn't show Mr. Lewis changing his headgear. All it does is show him changing his hand gear. And for this reason, I think it's both confusing and duplicative. It does not show him taking off his cap and putting on anything else.
Are you asking that it be longer, that there be more added to the front end?
No, I'm asking that the entire thing be taken out.
Very well.
Because it does not show him putting on a different headgear, just different hand gear.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Doyle. That objection, which I take again to be our 403 objection, is overruled for the same reasons I've just explained. Mr. Hughey, if you please play 4B.
This is 4B in its entirety. That was 4B.
Thank you. Likewise, 4B is entirely consistent with the court's earlier ruling. With the audio excised, it continues to carry significant probative value with respect to showing Mr. Lewis in the moments before they get to the Cider Riot site, how he's dressed, what he's carrying. To the extent that there are shots of other people, those other shots, again, with the audio out, I find don't carry significant prejudice. To the extent there would be any prejudice at all, that prejudice certainly does not substantially outweigh the probative value of that evidence under Oregon Evidence Code 403. Moreover, I'll note that the jury is going to see some or all of these same people once they are actually at the Cider Riot site in exhibits 1 and 2 and 3 and 5 and 6, or in at least some subset of those exhibits. For that reason, Mr. Gibson's objection to 4B is overruled.
And Mr. Lewis's continuing objection.
Mr. Lewis's continuing objection to 4B is received and is likewise overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
A couple things before we call. Well, first, any other evidentiary things we need to resolve? Okay.
Not unless there's a stipulation while still preserving the objections that the court just ruled on, unless there's a stipulation to the admission of 4A and 4B.
No. Having made the legal rulings, will there be any further objections to 4A or 4B?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Schwantes?
No objection.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Understanding that defendants are preserving the objections that have been overruled, 4A and 4B are received. Will that be it for the state's exhibits, or are there things that will need to be received in front of the jury?
States 1 through 6 will be it, Judge. We'll be publishing those in our opening and throughout the trial.
Okay, very well. We'll get the jurors in. I'll talk to them a little bit. We'll swear them. I'll instruct them. Are we then ready for the state's opening?
Yes, Judge.
Ballpark, Mr. Kalbaugh?
Half hour,
Okay.
maybe a little less.
Okay. What we may do then is give them a little bit of an early break after the state's opening before we turn to the defense openings. Have the defendants worked out among themselves the order for opening?
I'm gonna go first, Judge.
Okay, followed by Mr. Lee, followed by Mr. Doyle.
Yes.
Okay, best guess, Mr. Schmunzes?
10 minutes.
Okay, Mr. Lee
About 45.
and Mr. Doyle.
I'll probably reserve as much of my opening as I can, but probably about 5 minutes.
Okay, I think what that means is that we'll probably be close, but not past noon if all goes well with openings. If we're close enough to noon that it doesn't make sense for the state to call for first witness, we might break 10 or 15 minutes early, take up evidence of the afternoon. If we have as much as a half hour left, I think we'll just go all the way to noon with the state's first witness and then take our normal break. Mr. Hughey.
The state, if it works out that it's the lunch break, that's great. But if not, we would ask for a short break just to ensure I have the court's pretrial rulings memorialized into a set of witness instructions that I would like to go over with any witnesses before we just jump right into testimony.
Okay, that sounds good. Maybe we can do that on our first break, is take a few minutes to talk about that.
Okay. I'm not sure our first witness will, well, I'll keep the court apprised.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hughey, I may have misunderstood. Is it something you want to consult with me about, or you want to make sure you have time with the witness?
With
on
the
those
witness.
rulings? Oh, okay, of course.
Yeah.
The state will certainly be afforded that time.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else before we call in the jury? Madam Clerk, would you please bring in the jury?
What would you like me to off record?
We'll stay on the record when
We'll
the
stay on the
jury
record, I
comes.
will go ahead and mute the camera.
And I understand it will take a minute to seat them.
It should take a minute. So we are still on the record, we are unmuted.
Yeah, yeah. Good on you. Whatever you're comfortable with. I always kind of comfortable giving up control to your other person. I'm more than happy. Dropped off on Mackenzie. Might be.
All rise for the jury.
And folks are welcome to reclaim their seats. Members of the jury, good morning. Now that you have found your seats and are sitting down, I'm going to ask you to stand up one more time to be sworn in as jurors, please.
Okay, I'll have you all please raise your right hand. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that you will truly try this case and render a true verdict according to the law and evidence as presented to you? Okay, thank you. You may be seated.
Members of the jury, good morning. I am so very glad to see all of you, particularly in these times, to have all of you here and on time and ready to go. It's a really big deal. This is now the third time that each of you has come back in response to your summons as a juror in this case. And each time you have come back on time, you've come back ready to go. You've heard me thank you before, you're hearing me thank you now, you're going to hear me thank you again in the future. It's a really big deal. Our entire system of justice in this community depends on people like you, and in this trial, you, continuing to honor your summons, continuing to perform your civic duty. It is seen, it is appreciated. As with last week, I know it doesn't come as costless to you. I know you're all making sacrifices to be here. The fact that you're continuing to be willing and able to make that sacrifice matters enormously. So thank you very much for being here. In a moment, I'm going to read you some of the instructions that I'll be providing you with about the law that applies in this case. You have notebooks, you have pens. You're welcome to take notes during this and during the entirety of the trial if you wish. I would discourage you from trying to take down word for word exactly what I'm going to tell you at this time. That's because at the end of this trial, when you are deliberating, you will have these instructions typed out for you word for word in a notebook that is usefully entitled, I picked up the wrong notebook, usefully entitled jury instructions. So you're welcome to take notes if you think it'll help, but if you're trying to get word for what I'm saying, you're going to have it, and you don't have to worry about it. The other thing I want to tell you before I read the instructions is you would have to be preternaturally focused only on me, not to notice that there's a bunch of cameras in the courtroom. What I want to make sure you know is that those cameras, like the cameras above you, everyone is instructed, there's an order in this case that no one is to take your picture or to video you at any time, whether you're sitting here, whether you're walking to or from the courthouse, nobody. That's the order. A violation of that order would be contempt of court and would subject the person who's violating that order to some kind of sanction up to and including jail time. If you at any point think that someone is taking your picture or is video recording you, let the clerk or let me know so that we can do something about it. I'm not overly worried about it. In my experience, once that order is entered, everyone obeys it. So I'm saying that just because I want you to feel comfortable. You all have your juror badges, which is remarkably responsible behavior. Thank you for that. We're beyond the point where folks will be addressing you directly. If ever we need to talk about you, we're going to only use your numbers. A reminder that the same rules about masking that we worked with last week are going to apply. You're all masked. I appreciate it. The rule will continue to be everyone in this courtroom will be masked unless they are actively talking. So if lawyers are doing out loud lawyering, they can be unmasked. Same for witnesses who will testify unmasked. I'll be unmasked during times like this when I'm talking to you. Otherwise, I'll put my mask on. All right. So thanks very much again for being here. I'm sorry, and as a reminder, each of the defendants has my standing permission to be unmasked as they did last week. They're not breaking any rules. They're not doing anything wrong. They're doing what they're entitled and have my permission to do. Okay, so members of the jury, here are some of the instructions that I'm going to be giving you in this case. At the end of the evidentiary phase of our trial, we'll come back and I'll give you the bulk of the jury instructions that you'll be applying, but here are the instructions that I'll give you for now. So members of the jury, I'll now explain some of the rules that apply during a trial. There are 8 stages to most trials, and I'll briefly explain to you each stage. The first stage is jury selection. That's what we did last week when you all were here on various days. The second stage is the explanation of the general rules, which is what I'm doing right now. The third stage will be opening statements. That's when the attorneys will have a chance to summarize for you what they expect the evidence to be in this trial. The fourth stage will be the presentation of the evidence. That is when witnesses and exhibits will be presented. The fifth stage will be jury instructions. That's when the judge will explain the law that applies to the particular charges in these cases. That will include explaining what the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt for a guilty verdict in each of these cases. As I mentioned earlier, you will receive a printed copy of those instructions as well. Excuse me. The next stage will be closing arguments. That's when the attorneys will have the opportunity to try to persuade you how to decide this trial. The seventh stage will be deliberations. That's when you'll go back to the jury room and decide whether each defendant is not guilty or guilty of the charge of riot. The eighth stage will be the return of the verdict. That's when you will return to court and tell us your verdicts. I'm going to explain to you in a moment what is and what is not evidence. It is extremely important that you consider only the evidence in deciding the facts in these cases. Do not allow any personal feelings, sympathy, prejudice, or bias, whether conscious or unconscious, to influence your decision-making. You must not be biased in favor of or against any party, witness, or lawyer because of that person's disability, gender identity, race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, national origin, socioeconomic status, or political beliefs. Unconscious bias is a term used by social scientists to describe the reality that everyone has feelings, assumptions, perceptions, fears, and stereotypes. That is to say, unconscious biases that we may not be aware of. These hidden thoughts can affect what we see and hear, how we remember what we see and hear, how we interact with others, and how we make important decisions. Our biases affect how we act, favorably or unfavorably, toward someone. You should make every effort to be aware of your unconscious biases and what effect those may have on your decision-making. As the judge in this trial, I am the gatekeeper regarding evidence. I determine what the law allows to be evidence. In effect, the law considers anything that is not evidence to be unreliable. That is why you may not consider non-evidence in deciding the facts. However, the law does not conclude that anything that is evidence is necessarily reliable. Determining the reliability or the believability of evidence is ultimately your responsibility. You must decide what evidence is believable and how believable or persuasive any particular piece of evidence is. So, while you are not allowed to consider anything that is not evidence in deciding the facts, you are free to decide how believable or unbelievable, how important or unimportant any particular piece of evidence is in deciding the facts. Evidence consists of testimony of witnesses and exhibits that are admitted into evidence. Testimony is what a witness, who is sworn or affirmed to answer questions truthfully, says while being examined as a witness. Exhibits are physical objects such as photographs, charts, and letters. You will be able to examine admitted exhibits during your deliberations. You may draw reasonable inferences from the evidence, but do not guess or speculate. In understanding what is evidence, it may be helpful to have some examples of what is not evidence. The fact that a criminal charge has been filed against a defendant is not evidence. Any defendant is innocent of any crime unless and until the state proves that defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Questions from lawyers are not evidence. So whenever I sustain an objection to a question, do not speculate about why the question was asked or what the answer to the question would have been. This is a subtle but important point. In our everyday lives, if a friend asks us if we have seen our mutual friend's new car, we infer from the question that our mutual friend in fact has a new car. However, it is not the same in a trial. The person asking the question is not a witness and is not subject to the safeguards that the law requires before you may consider the person's words as evidence. So in court, you are not allowed to consider questions asked by attorneys in determining what the facts are, because those questions are not evidence. Of course, when a witness answers a question, you may consider the answer in the context of the question. So for example, if a lawyer asks, was the traffic light red or green, and the witness simply answers green, you may take that answer as stating that the traffic light was green. However, if the witness answers there was no traffic light, you may not take the lawyer's question as evidence that there was a traffic light. From time to time, a lawyer may object to something that is offered into evidence. I will decide whether the objected to material will be admitted as evidence. If I overrule the objection, the material, for example, an exhibit or a witness's answer to a question, becomes evidence. If I sustain the objection, the exhibit is not admitted and is not evidence, or the witness is not allowed to answer the question. If the witness starts to answer a question before I sustain an objection to the question, you must disregard that witness's response because that response is not evidence. Occasionally, I may decide that something that has already been admitted into evidence should not have been. If that happens, I will instruct you to disregard the exhibit or the testimony that should not have been admitted. That means the material is no longer evidence, and so you must not consider it in any way. You must treat it as if the question had not been answered or the exhibit had not been received in the first place. You must not interpret any statement, ruling, or remark that I make during this trial as any indication that I have formed any opinion about the facts or about the outcome of this case. You and you alone are to decide the facts. You must decide how believable the evidence is and what weight or value you will give to that evidence. You may take notes if you wish during the trial. However, please keep in mind that each party is entitled to the considered decision of each juror. Therefore, during deliberation, you should not give undue weight to another juror's notes if those notes conflict with your notes or with your recollection of the evidence. Do not allow your note-taking to interfere with your ability to observe and evaluate witness testimony. Your notes may only be in two places, here in the courtroom and during your deliberations back with you in the jury room. You may not take the notes with you on lunch or overnight breaks, for example. My staff will make sure that your notes are safe and that no one has access to them in your absence. Do not discuss this case during this trial. Do not discuss these cases, I should say, during this trial with anyone, including any of the lawyers, parties, witnesses, your friends, or members of your own family. This includes not communicating with anyone by any other means, such as telephone, text messages, email, internet, chat, blogs, social networking platforms. Do not discuss this case with other jurors or look at other jurors' notes until you begin your deliberations at the end of this case, after you've heard all of the evidence and the arguments of the lawyers, and after you've been instructed on the law that applies to this case. Each of you must keep an open mind throughout this trial and must not attempt to decide this case until you begin your deliberations. Do not make any independent personal investigations into any facts or locations connected with this case. Do not look up any information from any source. Do not communicate any private or special knowledge about any of the facts of this particular case, or these cases, I should say, to your fellow jurors. Decide these cases only on the evidence received here in court. Do not read any news stories, listen to any radio or television reports, or read or listen to anything on the internet about these cases or about anyone involved in these cases. In addition to conventional research, you must also not use any internet search engine, such as Google, to look for any information about this case, the law that applies to, or these cases, the law that applies to these cases, or the people involved in these cases, including the defendants, the witnesses, the lawyers, or the judge. Do not use any map program or mapping system to attempt to view or locate any of the locations that may be discussed in these cases. In short, do not communicate with anyone by any means concerning what you see or what you hear in this courtroom. And do not try to find out more about these cases by any means other than what you learn in the courtroom. Decide these cases only on what happens here in open court, where both the state and the defense are aware of and have the opportunity to question the sources of the evidence and to address any legal issues that may arise. That is the only fair way to decide a case. If you base your verdict on anything other than what you learn in this courtroom, that could be grounds for a mistrial, which means that all of the work that you, your fellow jurors, the parties, the lawyers, and the court have done will have to be done all over again. That is why this is so important. You are to ignore any attempted improper communication. If any person tries to communicate with you about this case, tell that person that you cannot discuss this case because you are a juror. If that person persists, simply walk away and report that incident to the clerk or to me. You may not talk to anyone about this case, even the people closest to you, except to say that you are a juror on a criminal case and that Judge Souede says you can't talk about it. After you've rendered your verdict or have otherwise been discharged by me, you will be free to do any research you choose or to share your experiences with anyone you choose, either directly or through your favorite electronic means. Please remember that all phones, laptops, and other electronic devices must be turned off while you are in court and while you are in deliberations. In a moment, we are going to hear the opening statements in which the lawyers will outline the evidence as they expect it to be in this trial. After the opening statements, the evidence will be presented. At the conclusion of the evidence, I will instruct you about the law that applies to this case. The lawyers will then make their closing arguments to you, and you will then begin your deliberations. At the end of this trial, you will have to make your decision based on what you recall of the evidence. You will not have a written transcript to consult, and it is so difficult to play back recorded testimony that it is not typically done. I urge you to pay close attention to the testimony as it is given. If at any time you cannot hear a question or an answer, please let me and the clerk know immediately by raising your hand. In performing your role, of course, you must be fair and impartial. You must follow the law whether you agree with it completely or not, and you must not allow yourself to be influenced at all by personal feelings, sympathy for, or prejudice against anyone involved in these cases. Members of the jury, those are the jury instructions that I'm going to give you at this time in the case. As I mentioned, at the end of the evidentiary phase, I'll come back and I'll give you the bulk of the law that you'll be applying in this case with more instructions. A couple of housekeeping matters. Those of you who are good at math may have noticed there are 14 of you. 12 of you will decide this case as the jury. 2 of you are alternate jurors. I know who the alternate jurors are. The parties know who the alternate jurors are. We are not going to tell you who the alternate jurors are. That is not because we're playing games or because I enjoy hiding the ball. It's for the very human reason that if human beings think they may not be called on to make a decision, it's harder to pay attention. During normal times, for a trial of this length, it is not unusual to lose a juror and have an alternate step in. During a pandemic, it is the norm. It would be great if at the end of this trial we have all 14 of you and we can thank our alternate jurors and excuse them. But we need you, alternate jurors and jurors alike, in order to get to the end of this trial. I will also tell you the alternate juror seats were selected randomly before we knew who any of you were. So it's the opposite of personal. It is only arbitrary. Finally, we will take breaks throughout the day. If at any point any juror is uncomfortable physically for whatever reason, and you need a break, if it's interfering with your ability to pay attention, please let the clerk know and let me know by raising your hand. We will accommodate that. We'll get you the break you need. It is of the utmost importance that you be able to pay attention throughout the trial. I'm going to pipe down now. Thank you all for listening. We'll turn now to the opening statements of the lawyers. This is the lawyers' opportunity to outline for you how they believe the evidence in this case, or in these cases, will be. Because the state has the burden of proof in each of these 3 cases, the state gets to go first with its opening statement. And Mr. Kalbaugh, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I please have control of the screen?
Yep, it should be connected and pulling up shortly.
Is that on that one?
I want to show Mr. Kalbaugh being connected. Give it just a second. There we go. There's an issue on my end, I think.
Thank you.
I've already turned on the microphone.
Thank you. May 1st, 2019. Portland had a heck of a day. There were a number of protests that have gone on throughout the city for any number of reasons. What you're going to hear about today, what happened towards the end of the day, after all the stuff that had gone on throughout the city. And if at any time I'm standing in the way of anyone, please just wave at me and I'll step to the side. You're going to hear about an incident that occurred at a location called Cider Riot. Cider Riot was a establishment, a bar that sold cider and alcohol. And you're going to hear it's located in the inner southeast portion of Portland, so close to downtown, close to the Burnside Ridge. This is a case where you're going to see a lot of video. You will hear from witnesses, several, but the bulk of the evidence that you're going to see is going to be video. You'll see on the video any number of people with cell phones recording other people, so the video will be interspliced. And you'll see a lot of people doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Today, we're going to be looking at 3 individuals, the defendants. Joseph Gibson, Mackenzie Lewis, and Russell Schultz. One of the first witnesses you'll hear from some police officers, but you're going to hear from Justin Allen. Mr. Allen is going to tell you how he was with Mr. Lewis and some others prior to things really getting interesting at the Cider Riot, immediately prior. And he was recording. And you're going to see his video, which has no audio. And this is a clip from the video you're going to see. In the video that you watch, you will see Mackenzie Lewis taking off a baseball hat and replacing it with a helmet, and placing very thick gloves over his bare hands. Another video you're going to see that Mr. Allen is going to talk to you about was how he filmed himself still with Mr. Lewis just a couple of minutes later. As they meet up with Mr. Gibson and Mr. Schultz. Just a couple block or two from the Cider Riot. You're going to hear from Detective Chris Trainer, who works for the Portland Police Department. Detective Trainer is going to tell you about video that he located online, a lot of video. you're going to see this. Everybody, communist Antifa bar in Portland. Look at. Here we go. Look at all these masks. Look, it's Antifa Communist Bar, Cider Riot, downtown Portland. Look it up. Everybody, look it up. Here we go. But are they going to do anything? Are they going to do anything? Hey, I heard the Cowboys score. You guys used to be yellow. Isn't that true? You guys used to be yellow? Now you guys are red. How's your buddy Chris Boston? How's your Nazi friend? Okay. Look, your guys told me now you got your that's what the Nazis told the Jews that they were broke. Get a good picture for your homies. Animals. I went to all these guys. Oh, these guys are so hardcore. They changed their color from cowboys. Hey, Joey, where's Tiny? Hey, Katie! What's wrong? You like Rumble? Katie, happened to Tiny, Joey! Hey, you want to fucking run one? Let's fucking do it. Oh, it's in the house. That's cool. Yeah. All right, my camera's off. Get on a leash. Get your dog on a leash. Get your dog on a leash. You fucking communist. Get that bitch on a leash. That fucking dog before he runs in the street. Grab the dog before he runs in the street. I don't care about all you fucking people. Not me, man. I'm a fucking anarchist. You'll notice as you observe these videos that often it's hard to tell who exactly is saying what because there's a lot of people yelling things. Some things that may be very offensive. You'll notice in the video you just saw that you could see Mr. Gibson holding up a camera. Well, Detective Trainer's going to tell you that it wasn't hard to find, but that the defendant was live streaming what was happening on Facebook, so he was broadcasting it. And then you could hear as the defendant, Gibson, pushed his way out on the sidewalk and wiped spit on an individual. You can better hear what Mr. Gibson's saying as he does that. You'll see and hear Mr. Gibson's live stream. Kalbaugh, what's up? Oh, it's you again?
Welcome here.
Are you going to insult me again?
You're not welcome here.
Yeah. I think I am.
You're not
There's a public sidewalk.
You're not welcome here.
There's a public sidewalk.
You're not welcome here.
There's a public sidewalk. There's a public sidewalk.
Hey, de-escalate a little bit.
De-escalate. There's a public sidewalk. Hey, it's Antifa bar right here.
You're so angry.
Check it out.
Why are you angry?
Check it out, Antifa bar. Right here, Cider Riot. Everybody look. Look at Antifa bar. Look at these guys wearing the masks. Look at them. Everybody look. Everybody look. Look at Antifa bar right here.
Everybody. Communist Antifa bar in Portland. Look at. Here we go. Look at this. Make me. You need to leave. You need to leave. Here we go. Look at all these masks. Look at this. Antifa Communist Bar, Cider Riot, downtown Portland. Look it up. Everybody, look it up. Here we go. But are they going to do anything? That's the question. Are they going to do anything? Hey, I heard the Proud Boys stole your shirt. You guys used to be yellow. Isn't that true? You guys used to be yellow? Now you guys are red. What happened? Do something. Do something. Do something. Look at that. Look at it. Yeah, spit on me. Spit on me. Spit on me. Yeah. There you go. Take that. Do something about it. Let's go. Hiding my face. There you go. Good fucking fake. What? Your guys spit on me. Now you got their spit. That's what the fucking do something. Bucks. Spitting. Do something. You're fucking animals spitting. Yeah. Yeah. You guys are going to feet. Talk it up. Talk it up. Let's go. Look at all these guys at their bar. Oh, these guys are so hardcore. They changed their color for Proud Boys. Do something. You got no soul in your eyes, man. Living is good. What's wrong? You don't like Brown Boys? Huh? What's wrong? You don't like Brown Boys? What's the matter? Stay away. Don't fucking touch anyone. Stay away. Stay away. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. That's two. Don't touch me. I got two more. Yeah, hold back. Do something. Keep holding back. Yeah. That's good. Why are you mad? Why are you mad? Because you got demasked? That's why you're mad? Get your face down. Get your face down. You ain't tough now. You mad because you got demasked? That's all you can do. Send it. Send it. Fucking stand down. Stand down. Oh no! Oh no! A riot! A riot happened at Cider Riot. There's a riot at Cider Riot. There's a riot at Cider Riot. Oh no! There's a riot at Cider Riot. Oh no! Oh no! There's a riot. Oh no! Call the police. Cider Riot. There's a riot at Cider Riot. Watch it, watch it. Oh, they took the bait. Oh no. Oh no.
While you watch the video, you'll count after Mr. Gibson says so many times, do something, making. After the chance of they took the bait, you'll see chaos erupts. You will see people doing horrible things in both groups. You'll see Russell Schultz standing shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Gibson as Mr. Lewis is throwing projectiles back into that group of people penned in at the bar. And then you'll see a video, multiple videos with different angles, where you'll see video accounts of a fist fight, a street brawl on a public road, just like this was a public sidewalk. You'll hear from Frederick Stuff, one of many amateur videographers who was there that day using a cell phone to record the events that unfolded.
Do you want us to leave or not? No. Go Niners! All right, let's go home and watch football! Calm the fuck down! You're my bitch! There's no such thing as law does not exist. Hey, stop! If they want to fight, we won't get involved. Why are you supporting
As you watch the videos from different angles, you'll see Mr. Schultz and Mr. Gibson acting to not break up the fight, but to keep the violence going. This isn't an attempt. You'll see no attempts at stopping that fight. You'll see attempts to make sure it doesn't become a whole bunch of people, but certainly one-on-one. Once this fight ends, you'll see video that suggests there was some sort of agreement. Mr. Gibson and company, you'll see them walking away. You'll hear jeering from the folks at the bar. And then you'll see video that shows everything escalate once more. You'll see a man who office detective trainer will tell you is named Demi Cooper, wanting to have a fight just like this. You'll see Mr. Gibson doing what he can to try to single out people from the crowd at the bar to fight Mr. Cooper. Another round. And then you'll hear from Heather Clark, who will tell you that she's in the video and she'll show you where she is. She'll tell you that she was at the bar that day. And she'll describe how the ultimate conclusion of this was her being hit in the head and knocked unconscious.
Unless someone else wants to fight.
This is a video case. This is a video case about a street brawl. After you've watched all of the video and you've heard from the witnesses, the state, me, and Mr. Hughey will be asking you to deliberate and to define these three defendants guilty of riot. Now, the statute's up there. The judge is going to instruct you on what all that means. And when you have the law and you have the facts, we will ask you to find all three guilty. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kalbaugh. Members of the jury, it will now be each of the defense attorneys' turn to present their opening statement to you. You're going to hear first from Mr. Schmantzes on behalf of Mr. Schultz. Mr. Schmantzes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. I'll need a minute to set up.
Certainly.
The video for you. Thank you. Morning, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience and your work over the past week, and nice to see everyone again. Opening statement is my opportunity to tell you what I think the evidence in this case is going to be. Yes, you're going to see a lot of video. You're probably going to see 4 different types of videos showing the same 20 minutes. And from that evidence, I'm going to ask you to find my client, Mr. Schultz, not guilty. First, I want to talk about what this case is about and what it's not about. This is a case about actions. This is not a case about beliefs. We spent hours last week talking about Antifa and talking about Patriot Prayer and anarchy and abolish ICE, left versus right. That's not what this case is about. This case is solely about my client's actions. This is Mr. Schultz. What is a riot? Before I get to some of the evidence as I expect you to see it as to Mr. Schultz. A riot is one person who engages with at least 5 other people in something called violent and tumultuous conduct that recklessly creates a grave risk of harm. We're going to talk about what is violent and tumultuous conduct. This is a jury instruction. Some of you I talked about, it's kind of like the IKEA instructions you're going to get. This is how you decide what the law is to apply to the facts that you're going to see. Violent and tumultuous conduct is physical acts by a person, Mr. Schultz in this case, immediately likely to produce the use of force. Okay? And like I said, you're going to see several videos that show Mr. Schultz, and we're fortunate, and I have some video stills for you. Mr. Schultz is very easily identifiable in that he's wearing a red long sleeve shirt. He's got your back to you in this frame. He's got a backwards baseball hat. It's a Boston Red Sox, not Boston Bean Eaters, but Boston Red Sox hat. He's got the red undershirt. He's wearing jeans, and he's got a shirt which has a religious connotation on it. You're going to notice, and I'm going to ask you to notice, how is he dressed? And how is his manner of dress different or significantly different from some of the other folks there? He's not wearing a mask. Remember, this is May 1st, 2019, so we weren't all wearing these, okay? He's not wearing gloves. He's not wearing a helmet. He's not carrying a weapon. He doesn't have mace. He doesn't have anything other than he's standing shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Gibson and Mr. Lewis. I'm going to ask you to pay attention to his movements. Focus on that red shirt, and you're going to see him engage in de-escalation techniques throughout this video. And you're never going to see Mr. Schultz engage in any violent act. There's no evidence of that. Mr. Kalbaugh said in his opening statement, you're going to see Mr. Schultz stand shoulder to shoulder at one point with Mr. Gibson. That's true. That's not criminal. He's standing on the sidewalk in this frame here. You can see he's holding his hand out in an effort to get the crowd of folks that he's chatting with or even arguing with to calm down. And this is Mr. Schultz again, after having been pepper sprayed, again standing, no weapons, yelling or talking to the folks around him. And towards the end of the frames, when Miss Clark, this is Heather Clark, she gets hit over the head by someone with a baton. His name is Ian Kramer. I think you're going to hear evidence that he was convicted of a crime for doing that, and that neither Mr. Schultz or Mr. Lewis or Mr. Gibson are charged with that assault. And you can see plainly in the video, Mr. Schultz is not involved in that. Doesn't touch her, doesn't put his hands on her, isn't even talking to her. In fact, after she gets hit, you'll notice Mr. Schultz is the primary person involved in trying to remove everyone from that scene. You'll hear him say multiple times, let's go, and again, putting his hands down, grabbing people who are associated with him to pull them away. This is him again. He's got a hand in his pocket. He's got a hand out. Peaceful speech. Peaceful speech, not physical acts of violence. And this is Mr. Schultz walking away. You can see Mr. Kalbaugh showed you a clip of a fight earlier. I'll ask you again, pay attention to that red shirt, that red undershirt that Mr. Schultz has. He's standing outside the perimeter. And we'll get to closing arguments. I'll get to tell you what I think that means. Mr. Kalbaugh made a comment that he thought it means he's actively encouraging this fight. But one of the jury instructions you're going to see and hear and follow is not to decide a case on speculation. And that's what that is. And this is a very simple case for Mr. Schultz. You watch his activities throughout this 20-minute video. He's talking. He might even say, maybe, a cuss word. But he never does any physical act that would remotely qualify as criminal. And he's innocent. So I'm going to ask you to find him not guilty at the close of this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmaltz.
Thank you, Judge.
I think now may be a good time. Okay. Members of the jury, you've been doing a lot of sitting, some of it waiting for us, some of it in here. I think given the sort of flow in the morning, this will be a good opportunity for us to give you your 10-minute mid-morning break. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to leave your notebooks on your chairs and to follow the clerk back to the jury room. Once you are in that jury room suite, you need to stay there until we come and get you in about 10 minutes. Please remember all my instructions, not to discuss this case with anyone, not even with each other at this point, and not to do any independent research about any of the things or laws or places or people involved in this trial. Last thing, I'll say this part, you'll hear all of that throughout this trial. This part just once so that we're all on the same page. You're going to hear me from time to time talk to you about coming back to the jury room, either after a lunch break or when you're back in the morning, what time I would like you to be in the jury room. We use jury room to mean two different things in this courthouse. We mean it to mean that first jury room down on the third floor that you first reported to when you responded to your juror summons, and we mean it to mean that sort of suite that you have on this floor. Please forget about the third floor. Banish it from your mind. Never go back. If you show up, they will be confused, and we will be looking for you. From now on, when I refer to the juror room, please use this room on the 16th floor. You should all have the code to get back there. Okay. In that case, if you'd please follow the clerk to the juror room, we'll come get you in about 10 minutes. We'll go off the record.
We'll go off record and we'll mute for what?
Yeah, as we heard, I'm gonna be off record here for, for 10 minutes or so. What I know of Claptrap, I feel like his take on this would be just shoot 'em all. Not how do I stream info, I think here. Yep. There we go. Fix the tag for Twitch viewers, so that shouldn't happen again. So, yeah, the 10-minute break, that's just the judge doing the break because of, I don't know, maybe people were fidgety or something. He was talking about doing it after opening statements, but we've still got 2 other lawyers to give opening statements yet. That said, I'm going to go ahead and put the music on until we're ready to come back. So, chill out, take care, and we'll go from there.
gonna get this in now.
Raises the.
You have it plugged in?
Yeah, no. But if it's plugged in, it'll show something. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know until I try it. Should I try it? Let's try it.
Might be right.
Whack, flickering off and on.
Turn it down.
Okay.
Turn it to half volume.
It's set to half volume. Interesting. Yeah, there it is. That should work. Yeah. And then I can F1 it. Yeah. That's interesting.
Don't overcomplicate it. It's fine the way it is.
Well, this is better.
May I approach real quick?
We are on the record.
Yep.
Involving Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
I know. Yeah, my buddy Steph. Julio said something else. Yeah, he's the best big guy I've had since. Yeah, it's tough for pitching.
Kalbaugh was concerned. That's the hard pop up on your computer, so we should make sure any other top lines are closed. It should
They signed.
I mean, I want the file
folder,
folder open, yeah.
Hate like a number one.
Now I've got that. Maybe that's not so good.
That'll be fine briefly. That'll be fine briefly when he opens this file.
Yeah, that's all we should see is this and the video. Technical screw up.
Members of the jury, welcome back. I hope you had a good break. We're going to pick up right where we left off with the lawyers presenting their opening statements for you. The next lawyer you'll hear from is Mr. Lee on behalf of Mr. Gibson. Mr. Lee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lee. I meant to do a thing. I beg your pardon. As you've already seen throughout this case, there's going to be video being played on the monitor that you've already seen. I'm a little concerned about glare. If anyone can't see clearly at any point, either because of where you're sitting or because the way the light is hitting the screen, would you please let me know, the same as I asked you to do with respect to if you couldn't hear something. We may also just go ahead and lower the lights a little bit when an extended bit of video is going to be played. And so if it gets a little darker, that's what's going on. I beg your pardon, Mr. Lee. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Mr. Gibson has been charged with the crime of felony riot. When you watch all of the videos, not just little snippets, you will see he is completely innocent of the crime that he has been charged with. The evidence is going to show, when you watch it all, is that on May 1st, Mr. Gibson and Mr. Schultz, who's seated next to him, the two of them together, the two of them went to protest. Other people also went to that location to protest, but those two went together. They went to protest a bar called Cider Riot. They did this because they wanted to call attention to the group that was using that bar at a hangout, a group that they viewed as violent and hateful. They wanted to call attention to their viewing audience. And you'll see all of Mr. Gibson's live stream where he recorded every word that came out of his mouth. And when you listen to all of it and watch all the video in context, you will be left with the unescapable conclusion that Mr. Gibson did not personally engage in
Argument.
Overruled. Go ahead.
What you'll see is that Mr. Gibson came and stood on a sidewalk. When he stood on that sidewalk, somebody who didn't respect his right to be in a public place and say what he said started physically chest bumping him. You'll see that he repeats to his audience when you listen to everything. He repeatedly tells his live stream audience that if the audience cares about the city of Portland, they will do something. He repeatedly says, if you care about Portland, do something about this group that is violent and hateful. And while he's live streaming to his audience, he tells them that this group is violent and hateful. That group proves he's right. You will see numerous people in that group attack Mr. Gibson. You will see them clearly spit on him on multiple occasions. And you've already seen the clip with the spit on his arm where they spit on him for being there. You will see somebody knock a smartphone out of his hand. You will also see somebody kick him in the groin. You will see in this video a man from that Rose City Antifa group with a knife in his right hand flash at Mr. Gibson's face as Mr. Gibson is standing on the sidewalk. You'll see that man lunge out, flash at him, and then jump back into the crowd. Mr. Gibson was doing nothing but standing there. You'll see that man again later in a very good close-up video, approaching the people who were protesting with that knife in his hand, slashing again right at the camera holder. Now, despite being spat upon, kicked, slapped, slashed at with a knife, Mr. Gibson did not respond with any violent act. He did not pepper spray anyone. He did not punch anyone. He did not kick anyone. And what you'll see when you listen to everything is that Mr. Gibson repeatedly told people, don't throw things. Put your weapon away. If two people are over there fighting, don't turn it into something bigger. Don't jump in. Stay out of it. Don't let two people fighting turn into a street brawl. And you'll see Mr. Demi Cooper. See Mr. Cooper in the video in a minute. You'll see when you watch all the video that when the people protesting were leaving, somebody punches him directly in the face. And Mr. Cooper is very upset. Mr. Cooper's not a defendant here. You'll see he's very upset and he wants to fight the person who punched him in the face. And you'll see Mr. Gibson put a hand on Cooper's chest at one point and say, it's time to go. It's time to go. Mr. Cooper protests. He wants to fight someone. Mr. Gibson tells him, nobody wants to fight. Look, does anyone want to fight? No, it's time to go. Tries to get him to leave. And as they're leaving, Mr. Cooper, again, not a defendant here, pushes Heather Clark. And Ian Kramer, not a defendant here, hits her. And you'll see when you watch all the video how offended and disgusted and upset Mr. Gibson was at the conduct of Demi Cooper and Ian Kramer. You'll see him immediately chastise them. And you will see in these videos, Ian Kramer is the man with an expandable baton. And you will see on multiple occasions, Mr. Gibson tell Ian Kramer, put that weapon away. Don't hit anyone with that. And you will also hear testimony that Ian Kramer and Demi Cooper, they were in a different group that came to this location. My client, Mr. Schultz, they went there for their protest. Ian Kramer, he went there for his. He's not on trial today. So I want to show you the full context of those videos as much as we can in an opening, so you can see a little bit more of the truth of this matter. So we're going to start with Mr. Gibson's live stream. His total live stream is about 20 minutes. I don't want to bore everyone by playing all of it, but I also want to make sure to show you enough of it that you understand the full context in this case. And in just a minute, I'm going to ask him to play, and we're going to turn down the lights so you can get a better view. As you've seen, Mr. Gibson will be standing on the sidewalk. He says, "Cool bar." He tells that person who's chest bumping him to de-escalate. You'll see in this series of clips, you're going to see where they spit on him. You're going to see Mr. Gibson, after the people in the Antifa group have become violent, you're going to hear him say to his audience, "Call the police." That is not what you do if you are personally engaged in illegal conduct. He says, "Call the police." And you will see Mr. Gibson responding to all the throwing by saying, quote, "Don't throw anything. Don't be violent. Let them be violent." And he specifically says that the Antifa group is rioting. Call the police. Sir, Buchal, if you could press play, and Your Honor, if we could dim the lights partway, thank you.
Kalbaugh, what's up? Oh, it's you again? Like insult me again?
You're not welcome here.
Yeah. I think I am.
You're not
There's a
welcome.
public sidewalk.
You're not welcome here.
There's a public sidewalk.
You're not welcome here.
There's a public sidewalk. There's a public sidewalk. De-escalate a little bit. De-escalate. There's a public sidewalk. Hey, it's Antifa bar right here. You're so angry. Check it out. Why are you angry? Check it out, Antifa bar. Right here, Cider Riot. Everybody look. Look at Antifa bar. Look at these guys wearing the mask. Look at them. Everybody look. Everybody look. Look at Antifa bar right here. Everybody, communist Antifa bar. Do something. Do something. Do something. Look at that. Look at it. Spit on me. Spit on me. Spit on me. Yeah. There you go. Take that. Do something about it. Let's go. There you go. What? Your guys spit on me. Now you got their spit. Fucking do something. Fucks. Spitting. Do something. You're fucking animals spitting. Yeah. Yeah. You guys run your feet. Talk it up. Talk it up. Let's go. Look at all these guys at their bar. Oh, these guys are so hardcore. They changed their color for Proud Boys. Do something. You got no soul in your eyes, man. Blue Moon's good. What's wrong? You don't like Brown Boys? Huh? What's wrong? You don't like Brown Boys? What's the matter? Stay away. Don't fucking touch anyone. Stay away. Stay away. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. That's cute. Don't touch me. Do something. Yeah. That's good. Why are you mad? Why are you mad? Because you got demasked? That's why you're mad? Get your face now! Get your face now! You ain't tough now! You mad because you got demasked? Spit on me. Send it! Send it! Fucking stand down! Oh no! Call the police! Cider Riot! Don't throw anything. Let them be violent. Let them be violent. This is Cider Riot. This is Cider Riot. They're violent. They're hateful. This is Cider Riot right here. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Cider Riot. Right here. This is Cider Riot, and they're pepper spraying us. They're assaulting us. This is an establishment with alcohol. This is an establishment with alcohol. Look at riot. Look at, they're causing a riot. Look at, they're causing a riot. They're wearing masks. They're causing a riot. Look at. This side of riot. Everybody look. Watch. 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 This side of riot. This is Cider Riot. Everybody, downtown Portland. Look it up. Look it up. This is Antifa Central. Antifa Central. Yep, communists. Antifa Central right here. This is the spot. You want to know where they hang out? It's right here. Find out the landlord. Find out the owner. Find out who's financing them. Look it up. You want to know the truth? Look it up. Look it up. Look it up. Do something about it. Do you guys care? Do you care about Portland? Do you care? Do something. Take care of this establishment.
You care about Portland. Do something and take care of this establishment. He continues to express his political viewpoint that something needs to be done about this organization using this liquor serving establishment as a clubhouse. He's talking to his audience. He's asking them to look into this issue. The next set of clips that you'll see is he continues his discussion on his live stream, and Heather Clark comes out with him, and they have a discourse. You might call it an argument. And if you pay attention, Mr. Gibson asks her, do you think it's okay for this group of people to assault me, to attack me, just for standing on a sidewalk? And you'll hear Heather Clark say, yes, she does. She thinks it's okay to assault someone for standing on the sidewalk. You'll see they continue the discussion. Nothing physical, a discussion. And while they're sitting there speaking, you'll see somebody else come out and there's some more pepper spray. And then, because this is not a riot at all, but it is more of a strange protest, you'll see a conversation with Mr. Gibson and a man with a guitar. And there will be a musical interlude, and there will be a discussion about playing peace music. And then Mr. Gibson will again show his viewing audience the violent and hateful group that has attacked him. Mr. Kalbaugh, if you could play the next 4 clips.
So's this. They attacked us for being on the public sidewalk. Is that okay? It's the public sidewalk. Can I be here or not? Can I be here or not?
Why are you here?
To expose them. Why would they react that way? They can come to our bar. We won't attack them. Is that okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Are you okay with this behavior? Why? For what? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? So they can attack me for being on public side. What if people don't want Mexicans? Right there, right there. What's that? No, I don't feel safe. Why do I feel safe?
Is that how you do it?
Why would I feel more pepper spray?
What's it called?
It's getting spicy. Spicy. Hell around here. Play some peace music.
If you looked closely, you would see the pepper spray all over Mr. Gibson's face at that point. And you'll get a chance to look at it in more detail later, but his face is covered in pepper spray. Please continue.
Play some peace music.
All right. Give peace a fucking chance, motherfuckers.
Hey, Joey, how many friends are pedophiles? Like 50%? Jake, did you lose your job yet?
I don't know if you're Nazi or not. I don't care.
I'm not a Nazi, brother.
Sorry, Nazi pedophile.
These are the Nazis. They're pepper spraying me for existing on a sidewalk.
Stop throwing.
That's what Nazis do. This is what Nazis do. No, you're a fuck. You guys are Nazis. Yeah. That's Cider Riot. Look it up. Look it up. I don't care who you are. Look up Cider Riot, downtown Portland. That's the hangout for Antifa.
Okay. Now, the next two clips I'm going to show you have to do with that. What you'll see is kind of a kickboxing match between two other people. So you saw a small clip of it already. And if you watch this closely, what you'll see is that there's a street out in front of the bar. Like most places, there's a street out in front. And Mr. Gibson is on this end of the street. And if you watch closely, you'll see that those two, their fight is down here. It's already ongoing, it's already started. He didn't start that fight. Two other people got in their own fight. And at the end of it, by the way, you'll see they shake hands. Not exactly a riot or a brawl when people shake hands afterwards. But when you watch, camera's going to turn, and you'll see Demi Cooper again. Now, you'll see him here, you'll notice him, he's wearing a green striped shirt. Two people are fighting down the street. Mr. Cooper, you'll see running to get into that fight. And Mr. Gibson's response is to tell him, no, don't do that. Don't get involved in their fight. Don't let their fight become a brawl. And you'll see him tell people not to get involved, and you'll hear him say to Ian Cooper, hey, put your weapon away. And hear him pleading with people, don't jump into their fight. And you'll hear him say to Ian Kramer, quote, I'm asking you, don't hit him with that, end quote. He's pleading, he's not directing, because he's not in control of Ian Cooper. So all he can do is plead with this other person who showed up separately to this event. And you'll see when that match between those two people ends, they stand up and they shake hands. Go ahead.
Or not?
Go Niners! Let's go home and watch football!
Let him fight! Let him fight! No! Hey, let him fight! Hey, let him fight! 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 They want to fight! Let him fight! Hey, walk over here and fight! It's mutual combat! No! Hey, put your weapon away! Put your weapon away!
There's no such thing.
Well, we're not going to get involved. Hey, stop! If they want to fight, we won't get involved. That's their right. Hey, put your weapon away. Let them fight. They want to fight, let them fight. Hey, it's mutual. Don't hit them with that. It's mutual, man. They want to fight, let them fight.
That's not a law in Portland.
I don't. Oh, you're for the law?
I'm just telling you, man.
Hey.
It's not a law in Portland.
I'm talking about morals.
I mean, he is right.
Let him out. Let him out. Back it up. Make sure. Stay back. Stay back.
I'm making sure dude with the fucking truncheon doesn't jump.
I won't let him. Hey, don't hit him with that, okay? Don't hit him with that, okay? I'm asking you.
Come on.
No one jump in. No one jump in. Good job. We'll leave. I like that, man. I like that. Fuck yeah, man. Hey, man. Hell yeah. Yeah, let's do it. All right.
Now, the next thing that happens is that Mr. Gibson and Mr. Schultz go to the sidewalk on the other side of the street, away from the cider bar, and they start walking down the street, going back the way they came. They're attempting to leave. Demi Cooper walking through the street. And you won't fully see it in this video. And then what I'm going to show you in a minute, you will see it. But for context, what happens is when Mr. Cooper's walking down the street, one of the individuals from the bar, the mask, fully dressed in black, punches him right in the face. Mr. Cooper takes off his backpack. He's very upset because he was just punched in the face and he wants to fight that person. You'll hear Mr. Gibson saying, it's time to leave. Time to leave. You'll hear Mr. Gibson try to convince Mr. Cooper that he should leave. Mr. Cooper is unsatisfied with the idea of leaving. He says he wants to fight someone. The man who punched him in the face had withdrawn back into that crowd bar. Mr. Gibson tries to convince him that nobody wants to fight him. When you watch all the video, you'll see that what Mr. Gibson is doing is showing Mr. Cooper nobody wants to fight him one-on-one, and it's time to leave. And so he says to the group, does anyone want to fight him one-on-one? No. Demi uses his first name. It's time to go. Nobody wants to fight. It's time to go. Now, Mr. Gibson almost has convinced Mr. Cooper to leave. And you'll see they're walking away. But Mr. Cooper, again, not a defendant in this case, of his own accord, goes back. And he starts yelling at some poor girl. He's getting right in her face. And you'll see when you watch all the video, Mr. Gibson, trying to get everyone to leave, walks over and he puts his hand with his palm towards the woman, or towards Mr. Cooper's chest, between Cooper and the woman, and says, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't get in her face. We've got to go. And again, he almost gets Cooper to leave. You'll see in video Heather Clark is yelling at Cooper. She calls him a coward at one point. And she goes over there. And Mr. Cooper, of his own accord, when everybody's trying to get him to leave, he pushes her. And then she charges towards Cooper, tries to charge through where Mr. Gibson is standing, while Gibson is backing away from her. Charges through, and that's when Ian Kramer does what he did. And again, you will hear in all the video how upsetting that was to Mr. Gibson, that Mr. Kramer did that with the weapon Mr. Gibson repeatedly told him to put away. You play through the end of this. Thank you.
Hey, don't get in her face. Hey, don't get in her face. I'm sorry. Let's go.
Go to jail. Let's go. Goddamn mirror.
Come on, chill, bro. Dude, come on. At least they fought like men. For once, they fought like... Oh, jeez. Hey, there's another time for that. No one wants to fight you anyways. Right? No one wants to fight you.
You won't fight.
Come on. Dude, tonight was good. Hey, I promise you tonight was good. Tonight was good, I promise you. What? Who? What? Come on. Hey. Hey, we gotta go. Come on. We gotta go. No. We had a deal. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hey, I'm sorry.
Get the fuck back.
I'm sorry.
Get the fuck back.
I'm sorry. Stop. Get out of here. Go. Get the fuck out. Go. Get out. Get the fuck out. Get out. I'm sorry. Well, fall back. I'm sorry. Fall back. I'm sorry.
Drop him. Grab Demi. Get him the fuck out, Joey. Let's go.
Get out. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. What are you fucking doing? What are you doing? What's your deal? Why did you do that?
I'm a
You
fucking
get up
home.
in a girl's house though? She didn't do it. She's just a girl. What are you doing, man?
Take a hard right.
It's not okay. It's not okay.
I just lost my home because of them.
It's not okay. She didn't do anything to you, man.
Goddamn it, they're all the fucking same.
She didn't do anything to you.
Mr. Gibson said it clearly. The actions of Demi Cooper and Ian Kramer were not okay. Told them not to do that. Wasn't operating with them when they did that. Mr. Buchal is going to play exhibits 3 and 6. We've seen kind of a chronology of the event now, instead of just some pick points. So now I'm going to fill in some of the blanks. And you go to the start, Mr. We're going to show you State's Exhibit 3. Portion just showing you another angle of that, showing you Mr. Gibson putting his hand on Mr. Cooper, or in front of Mr. Cooper. Okay. And that is that moment earlier with the girl where he's saying, don't get in her face. Some of these clips you'll see have better sound quality than others. So some of them are only really helpful for a visual of a different angle. Next, we're going to show you Exhibit 6. And you're going to see 3 clips. And this is a little higher quality video with a different angle to hit some of the points you're already aware of. So I'm not going to go into detail about what they show, except for to ask in the 3rd clip, if you listen closely to what the man in the black mask and the black hood says, if you listen closely, what you'll hear that man say to Mr. Gibson is a threat on his life. You'll hear that man say, come on, Joey, quote, I'll fucking kill you, man, end quote. And he screams it like he means it.
Alright, my camera's off. Get your dog on the leash! Get your dog on the leash! You fucking cowards! Get that bitch on the
If you watched the end of the first clip, what you might have seen is that the first person to throw something, there was a woman at the bar. You can watch this again later. She had a glass of beer and she throws it in somebody's face. And then that's when all the pepper spray comes out. Now, the next video we're going to show you is from Justin Allen, as you heard the state talk about. Justin Allen made some video for his live stream. He did something very similar to what Mr. Gibson did. He showed up to a protest, brought his camera, he videoed and live streamed and made narrations, and he moved about on the sidewalk with everybody else. Very similar to Mr. Gibson. He's not charged with anything. Now, you're going to see 4 clips here. And on the 3rd one, that's the one where the man in the black hood, white shirt, dark pants, with some black imagery on the front. You'll see Mr. Gibson standing on the sidewalk. And that's when you'll see that man lunge out and slash at Mr. Gibson with what you will see in a later video is clearly a knife. Can you go ahead and play those?
Sorry. Pardon me, sorry.
Yeah, your shirt says Christ.
ACAB. For when the sun.
Now, the next series of clips is going to give you an additional perspective on the issue of where Mr. Gibson was and what he was doing when the fight occurred between those two other individuals down there. So if you watch the first clip, you'll see Mr. Gibson's nowhere near the start of that fight. That fight occurred on its own. And then we're going to show you another angle of what happened after that match, how everybody shakes hands and walks away. And then what you're going to see in the third clip is something you don't see at a riot. It is more like what you see at a high school sporting event. The people that were protesting are walking away. And the people in the Antifa group are chanting, as we all probably have one time or another in our life, na 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 na, na 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 na, hey hey, goodbye. And everybody is leaving. But then you will see clearly at the end of this video when Demi Cooper is punched in the face. So go ahead and play those next three, Mr. Buchal.
Yes.
Go back just a little bit.
Hold on.
Go forward, I meant just like a second back. Go forward 1 minute, please. Just scroll forward 1 minute, please. Yes. Okay, right there, pause, and go back 1 second, please, if you can. 1 more second. Okay. Now, if you look, I'll just ask you to pay attention because this is a good angle. It'll become clear when we press play. There's Mr. Cooper in the green and white, but right behind him in the white hat, you'll see he's at the end of the street. Right behind him in the white hat is Joey Gibson. He's not part of that fight. And so when Mr. Buchal presses play, just watch for that white hat and you'll see that Mr. Gibson is in a conversation at the end of the street, even after that fight has initially started. Now press play.
Hell yeah, Sacramento!
We might have needed to go back another second.
I guess it's time to leave, right? This is so fucking weird. This is so fucking weird. This is so. This is a thing that happened, and it. Hey, you're all puffy, a little puffy. And it will never not be a thing that happens.
It's over there, man.
Yeah. I can hold it for the time being. Oh, hey, we We had the mutual combat thing.
No, we're going home now.
Calm down.
Yeah, let's go. Woo! First two.
So that's the point when Mr. Cooper, after being punched in the face, says he wants to fight somebody. Now, what you'll see, and this is the last clip on the Justin Allen video, is Gibson repeatedly trying to tell Cooper to leave. Despite having been punched in the face, it's time to leave.
You won't fight a black guy! You are afraid to fight a black guy! Keep that noted! You won't fight a black guy!
I mean, I thought we were going to only have one person fighting.
If you believe that, then do something about it! If you believe that,
Nice!
At a later time, you'll be able to watch that in slow motion if you want, and you'll be able to see very clearly who did what. I know it moves pretty fast, and you'll see when you watch it in slow motion very clearly, Mr. Gibson is just backing away. He's telling Demi Cooper to leave. Ian Kramer did what he did, and you see Mr. Gibson immediately pushing Kramer back, telling him to leave, telling Demi Cooper to leave. Now, the last video we're going to show you 5 clips from. First 5 clips on Exhibit 2. And this is going to give you the last vantage point that you're going to see to kind of round out the full picture. And what you'll see is that when Mr. Gibson arrives, engaging in protest, engaging in words, there's actually a lot of laughter between the two groups. It's strictly verbal, or mostly verbal. And you'll see Mr. Gibson again saying, "Don't be violent." You'll see him again pepper sprayed. And you'll see the weapons of some of the people of that group. You'll see one of the men in the Antifa group with brass knuckles on each hand. If you look closely, you'll see one of that group with a fully extended asp. And you'll see the starts of that conversation that Mr. Gibson had with Miss Clark, where he is pepper sprayed for no reason. And you'll even see that they emptied the entire can of pepper spray at him. And you'll know that they used every bit of pepper spray because after they sprayed him in the face and emptied it, they actually took, it's one of the bear spray cans, the big can, and they threw it at him and hit him with it because it wasn't good enough just to spray him. You played the first 5 clips. Thank you. And you'll notice that Mr. Gibson is alone when he goes to the protest.
There's a public sidewalk. There's a public sidewalk. There's a public sidewalk. There's a public sidewalk. Hey, de-escalate a little bit. De-escalate. There's a public sidewalk. Hey, it's Antifa bar right here.
Your intelligence is worse. Damn it, I already did. You did? I did. Yeah. You're so proud of yourself. Yeah, I'm very good.
The lady in red mask you see in the video has a full beer at one point and then throws it in the face of one of the protesters. You watch all the video, you'll see that. There's the spit on Mr. Gibson's arm. There's the laughter, a bit of tomfoolery, essentially. Now, if you're looking at, you go back 5 seconds, 1 second, 1 second. Right there. Now, if you look up, you see Mr. Gibson's hat. You look just to the left of that, you'll see a large man with a goatee. And the woman in the red, you'll see, is facing him. You can just kind of see her back arm. You will when you watch all the video. You'll see that those two, they're having some sort of discourse. We'll never know what was said between the two of them. What we will know is that she takes her beer and throws it directly in his face, across the property line. And that's really what kind of gets everybody in this pepper spray fight. Go ahead. And you'll see that in a different clip, by the way. There's the throw. You'll hear in the better audio him saying, "Don't be violent, don't throw anything. Let the Antifa group be violent." And again, all Mr. Gibson is doing is standing in a public location, videoing. Go back 1 second. Right from there. 1 second. Pause. Okay. So when Mr. Buchal presses play again, I'd like you to look at Mr. Gibson's left arm, because you just saw a cloud come up. This is another angle that is when they just came out and pepper sprayed him. And if you look at Mr. Gibson's left arm, you'll see it's now orange. It's almost like it's been painted. That's how much pepper spray was sprayed in. Go ahead and press play. You can see that right there.
Just fucking jacked his camera.
There you see the brass knuckles, and the ass. And this reporter has had his camera broken for simply standing on the sidewalk and videoing. He tries to go into the bar to speak to the bar owner about what has happened, and this is how he's treated. Hands are up in the air. Mr. Gibson, standing on the sidewalk live stream.
Hey, go back to your jurisdiction. Why are you here? To expose him. Why would they act that way? They can come to our bar. Is that okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Come over here, bitch!
We're gonna play this one in slow motion. Gibson standing on the sidewalk. There's the can, hitting him in the back. Having been kicked, spat upon, pepper sprayed, had somebody slash at him with a knife, flashes a peace sign and starts to leave. But you will see that that's when that fight breaks out on the other side. And you'll see in this next clip him telling Ian Kramer, this is just another perspective, don't hit him with that. Put your weapon away, and again, don't hit him with that. Go ahead. There's the peace sign. So you'll see, that's one arm down the street. Mr. Gibson's very far away from the point. Just one arm over there.
Oh, dude, you good? Another journalist has been attacked.
Don't hit him with that. Pause, Mr.
Let it play.
Okay. The man in the red shirt next to Mr. Gibson, that's Justin Allen. You've seen him throughout the videos here. And what is he doing? He's standing shoulder to shoulder, Mr. Gibson. Shoulder to shoulder. It's not a crime. Call your attention to it because I want you to just notice when you're watching these videos, the man in the red shirt who is standing shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Gibson is also there doing essentially the same thing Russell Schultz is doing all day, except for that he has a phone in his hand. It's the only difference. Please continue. Goes up to Ian Kramer, don't hit him with that.
Get him, Jay, come on! No one jump in! No one jump in! Nobody!
They actually, when you watch it, they have rounds like it's a sparring match. That was the first round, then they pause, then they come back for their second match between these two men, neither of whom are charged in this case. Go ahead. It's part of the story. Pause it. Back just a couple seconds in slow motion. Ladies and gentlemen, what I want you to see when Mr. Buchal takes it back just a couple of seconds is right there, you're going to see those distinctive red sleeves of Ian Kramer. I'm sorry, Russell Schultz, right there. Now, Ian Kramer is right next to him. Ian Kramer is the man with the ass and the helmet. Ian Kramer is the one that Mr. Gibson repeatedly says, put that thing away, don't hit anyone with that. What you're going to see, go back just a minute. You watch it in slow motion. You'll see Mr. Kramer, he's kind of a problem. And you'll see Mr. Schultz put his hands on the man's vest, on Ian Kramer's vest, and start slowly pulling him out of that situation. Another person trying to de-escalate, making sure that that fist fight that started on its own doesn't turn into a brawl. Can you play that in slow motion? You need to go back. Okay, that's fine. Okay, you see his hand pulling Ian Kramer away from them. trying to de-escalate, making sure the fight between those two people does not turn into a brawl. You'll also see, if you look, there's many people standing in this circle, including Heather Clark. We'll play the rest of it. Let's see. Now, in this next clip, and I have just two more, this one and another, you're going to see that issue with Demi Cooper again. And this is going to pick up on the timeline after Mr. Cooper has been punched in the face. You're not going to see him punched in the face from this angle, but you will see him take his backpack off, just like he did in the other video, to show you how they overlap timeline-wise. And you'll see Russell Schultz telling Cooper, "We got to go." And you'll see that Mr. Cooper, after he takes his backpack off, he goes to that crowd and he's signaling at the person who punched him in the face, "Come out, come out." He's using his hands, "Come out." He wants to fight him. And that, as we've discussed, is when Mr. Gibson is telling him, "Nobody wants to fight you, it's time to leave." Go ahead and play the next one. There's Miss Clark calling the coward. And there's Mr. Schultz trying to get Mr. Cooper to leave. We've got to go, we've got to go. Now, as we all know from the videos, Miss Clark, after she's pushed by Mr. Cooper, she charges in towards him. And I want to play the next clip, Mr. Buchal, in slow motion. And you're going to see that push, and you're going to see her charge as Mr. Gibson is backing away. Go. Yeah. Gibson trying to get him to leave. Gibson's clearly backing away. You can play the next one in real speed.
Fall back, fall back, fall back, fall back. You stay back, fall back, fall back. We will fall back, fall back.
This is the man in the mask, the white shirt. Look in his right hand. Watch, you'll be able to clearly see his knife. You'll see when you go back and watch all the videos again, he's the man who earlier jumped out, lunged at Mr. Gibson, and slashed at his face with that instrument in his hand. Can you go back just 2 seconds, Mr. Buchal? Okay. And go ahead and play it all the way through.
back. Fall back. Hold my camera. Hold my camera. Hold my camera. Hold my No! We're backing off. Get the fuck out of my face. Move faster! Get the fuck. Move faster! No. No, you need to move the fuck. Get the fuck back. Get the fuck back. I'm not your enemy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gibson was concerned about what that particular group of people was doing to the community. He was concerned about the danger they represented to the city of Portland. He went there to call attention to the fact that that group was particularly violent and hateful. He live streamed and told his audience that group was violent and hateful. And they proved it when they spat on him, kicked him, repeatedly pepper sprayed him. He didn't punch anybody. He didn't pepper spray anybody. He didn't throw anything. He didn't assault anyone. He repeatedly told people to put their weapons away and not to throw anything. And he tried to get people to leave, and he tried to get other people's fights not to turn into a brawl. The evidence is abundantly clear when you watch all the video that Mr. Gibson did not engage in felony riot. There was a happening for sure, but not something that rises to the level of felony riot. We're going to ask you to find him not guilty. Thank you.
Mr. Lee, members of the jury, last attorney who will hear an opening statement from this morning is Mr. Doyle on behalf of Mr. Lewis. Mr. Doyle, you may proceed.
You will see pictures of my client shaking hands. You will see pictures of my client washing pepper spray out of his eyes. You will see my client, I believe, a canister that was tossed at him once it had been emptied on him, tossing it back at the knee so that no one was hurt. I am not going to have to identify my client because he is the most identifiable client, and that's one of the reasons we're here. He's carrying a flag, but not like this. His backpack, it is always in his backpack. It is a don't tread on me flag. Not disrespecting the American flag, but a don't tread on me flag stuck in his backpack. It is never used as a weapon. It is never brandished. It is never anywhere but in his backpack. And that is one reason we're here. The second reason we're here is because the name of the location where this occurred was a tavern called the Cider Riot. It was not called the Hunt and Fish. It was not called anything else. Do not let the name of this tavern influence you in any way to find my client guilty of felony riot. The state will have to prove each and every element, as the judge will discuss, against my client. Not against this group, not against Antifa, but against my client who is on trial here today. And I would urge you to find my client absolutely not guilty of felony riot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Members of the jury, that was the opening statement phase of our trial. We're next going to turn to the evidentiary phase, which is where witnesses' testimony and exhibits will be presented. Because the state has the burden of proof, the state gets to call witnesses first. However, given the hour, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that before we give you your well-earned lunch break. So in a moment, I'll ask you to follow the clerk back to your jury room. If I could ask you to please stay there for just a moment, and then court staff will come and will help you get out of the building if in fact you want to get out. I'm going to ask you to be back in that jury room, ready to go at 1:30. In the meantime, if you'd please leave your notebooks on your chair, please remember all of my instructions not to discuss this case with anyone, not to do any independent research into any of the people or places or laws or things involved in this case. Have a very pleasant lunch. You can leave your notebooks on your chairs, and I'll invite you to follow the clerk out. We will go off the record.
We'll go off the record and mute the weapon.
Okay, yeah, if they're gonna be having the jury come back by 1:30, then probably about 1:45, court will start. I will go ahead and shut down the stream for now. Bring it back up at 1:30. Just go ahead if you keep an eye on the link in the video description for the location of the new link, or on our Twitter, or follow our YouTube channel and such. Hopefully things will go decently in the afternoon. Take care and see you then.